Παρακαλώ κυρίες και κύριοι, καθίστε. Perfect. One second.
All you need to do is when you're coming, she'll tell us.
Hi. Yep, here now.
Oh, it's good to see you. Good to see you, Alex.
How are you guys? Good to see you.
He'll come. Yes. Okay. We're gonna say. Yeah.
And just say we're honored to have him made back. And then when he's done, I'll get up and introduce Rob.
Okay.
This is just for you.
One more time, or should I just leave it? Jenifer, one more time, be seated, or we're good? I think we're good.
Well, we gotta get the fans here.
Yeah, you do your family.
Everybody's not here, so we gotta get people to sit down. Rob's not here. Rob's not here.
Yeah, they're right there. If we could kindly take our seats, our places, so we can begin. Did you see John Camp anywhere?
I can't answer. Okay. Where's Honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the American School of Classical Studies at Athens. I'm Jenifer Niles, the director of the American School. This afternoon, we are gathered here to celebrate a beloved building where generations of American school members have worked, slept, eaten, socialized, and more often than not, fallen in love. The original Lorraine Hall was dedicated with great fanfare on February 11th, 1930. By 2008, it was very clear that the building was in dire need of modernization. It, for instance, may have been the last building in Athens with no air conditioning. Thanks to Charles K. Williams, our board chairman at the time, a planning commission was established to review the entire Kolonaki campus. Plans were drawn up by the architectural firm of Kyriakides, and the executive director in our Princeton office, Irene Bald-Romano, launched a capital campaign to raise the necessary funds at a not particularly auspicious time, 2008. Since then, years of planning, drafting, and redrafting plans have resulted in major, much-needed changes and additions to this 90-year-old building complex. To your left, those of you down there, you will see the third story added to the annex. And behind you, McCredie House, which now has 3 separate apartments. In addition to the longed-for air conditioning, we have installed individual bathrooms in all the rooms, soundproof windows, a kitchen worthy of our amazing chef, Takis, solar paneling, you can't see it, but for the first time in any of our buildings in Athens, and AMIA-compliant rooms and bathrooms for the disabled. Also, please admire the brand new landscaping here and on the terrace below. As it turned out, the timing of the construction, commencing in 2020, was most auspicious. Because of the mandated shutdown for COVID, we had no students to house or feed for 16 months, the time it took to finish the renovations. Also, if we were to do this today, certainly the material costs would be 20% higher, and there would be long delays in shipping furniture, appliances, etc. We have many here in Athens to thank for the success of this complex and often challenging project, but three stand out. First, to the construction company Sarnatech, whose engineers solved serious problems as they arose, whose workmanship was meticulous, and whose advice we followed for the best final product. Our own general manager, Mr. Telos Panos, carefully scrutinized the details of the budget and attended weekly construction meetings. Without his constant oversight, we would not be sitting here today. Finally, our resident manager, Niamh Michalopoulou, with her amazing logistical and organizational skills, which I have come to admire over the last 5 years, and her indefatigable but always cheerful Loring staff, moved everything out, and a year and a half later, most of it back in. She supervised every detail of the interior, from the faucets to the chandeliers, meanwhile having much of our vintage furniture beautifully restored. Let's applaud these wonderful staff. So what you'll see today is not just a more comfortable, modernized building, but one which retains its 1930s elegance and aura intact. May future generation of members and students live more comfortably, sleep more soundly, work just as hard, and fall in love, not just with each other, but with Greece. It is now my very great pleasure to introduce our Board of Trustees Chairman, Alex Zagoreos, for whose leadership, good humor, and financial savvy we are all most grateful. His love of Greece is contagious and has resulted in increased support for the school on both sides of the Atlantic. Alex.
Thank you, Jenifer. And on behalf of the trustees of the American School, allow me to begin by expressing our gratitude and appreciation to you for your significant and many accomplishments, that you leave a legacy here, which is in these buildings and in the Makroyanis wing. The dedication of these two buildings today are, to a great degree, a result of your efforts. So thank you for that. A number of us were in Crete for a week, going from one end of the island to the other, and we saw many very interesting archaeological sites that seem to have one thing in common, and that is nobody could account for what destroyed them, what caused their collapse. So it's a pleasure to be here talking about regeneration and rebirth and the future, because we know who's responsible for that, and many of them are sitting in front of me here, the benefactors and the trustees of the American School. So thank you very much to you all. I have the great honor of introducing the mayor of Athens, who is a personality known around the world now for what he's been doing in Athens. And I'd like to introduce Mayor Kostas Bakoyannis to the stage. Thank you.
It is a true privilege to be with you this afternoon, and I would like to thank the wonderful team that brought us all together, And on a rather personal note, if I may, I would like to publicly thank my friend, Ambassador Kriakoukis, for transmitting his love for the Gennadios and the American School to me and our team. So, ladies and gentlemen, the words of Isocrates, carved on the marble facade of the magnificent Gennadios Library, serve as potent reminders. They are called Greeks, those who share in our culture. These words are sure well worth of translation after thousands of years, much like they are worth to be spoken aloud. Because Isocrates tells us that the barrier to becoming Greek does not come from blood or law, in spite of our least worthy moments when we call upon those concepts to separate ourselves from others. No, to be Greek is actually a much broader, inclusive, and diverse and rich identity. It is an ecumenical identity that the American School of Classical Studies in Athens has served for generations. The students and scholars who pass under those words should feel that they are Greek as much as they are American. After all, as someone who has studied in America and has very much enjoyed the benefits of immersion in educational and cultural exchange on the other side of the Atlantic, I will always cherish those values, and I will encourage expanded opportunities for study by Americans in Athens and Athenians in the United States. So it is indeed a great pleasure to participate in this inauguration of this wonderfully expanded, renovated, and modernized Loring Hall, a building that over 100 years has been a home away from home for students and scholars of the American School of Classical Studies. Every generation that has come to Athens has aimed to become more like the locals, to become Greek, and to become Athenian. They have been incredible ambassadors for Athens to the world, and we have a deep gratitude for the hard work and support, which has greatly advanced the understanding of the past and present of our city. The Hellenic Republic has entrusted to the capable hands of our American colleagues two of the most important historical sites, the Agora in the heart of Athens and the ancient site of Corinth. And at the American School, I must confess, very much impressed when I visited the new Malcolm Wiener Laboratory, this amazing research department of global importance that brings innovation and hard science to the study of the past. It was, as you know, a great moment in our city's history when in 1922 Ioannis Gennadios gave his famous rare book collection to establish the Gennadios Library in trust for the Greek people and freely available for the scholars of all nations. In the meantime, the Gennadios brilliantly became a prominent spiritual center of Athenian life, enhanced by the exemplary construction of the West Wing. The inauguration of this new building reminds us not only to look towards the past for inspiration, much more than that. It is Athens that belongs to the future. And today, we are very, very well aware that the future, despite of all the crisis, is in our hands. It is in our hands to create a city that we all want to live in. And I believe, ladies and gentlemen, that this is very much the moment of Athens. Much like it was the moment of Lisbon 10 years ago, the moment of Berlin 20 years ago, the moment of Barcelona 30 years ago. Athens is transitioning and emerging as a global destination, a center of creative culture and ideas, a city where people choose to visit and live. In a few words, Athens is not just bouncing back, Athens is bouncing forward. And we very much hope that the students and scholars at the American School, indeed the residents of the new Loring Hall, everyone, should participate, enjoy, and cherish the life of our city. And we very much look forward to pursuing new partnerships and joint initiatives that will develop and promote this new Athenian moment. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mayor, for being here today and for your presence. It's with great honor also that we have the opportunity now to hear from someone very special to the American School. And as president of the Board of Trustees, has provided both oversight, guidance, and significant support for this project as well. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Rob Loomis.
Well, this event has been a long time coming. As early as 2007, Loring Hall was number 2 on a list of capital projects drawn up by Charles Williams, who was then chair of our master planning committee. Number 1 on the list was the main building, including its climate control systems. Numbers 3 through 6 included the Wiener Laboratory, the Gnavius West Wing, improvements to Coatson Hall, and a parking garage that we eventually decided not to build. But for most of the students, and indeed most of the alumni, Loring Hall was the top priority, particularly during the summer, when it was nearly impossible to sleep in its unair-conditioned rooms. And students used to take their pillows across the street and lie down on the floor of the air-conditioned Blagan Library. But although Loring was the top priority for our community, Charles Williams felt, and we all had to agree, that we would undertake these projects only as and when funds became available. And some of the other projects, notably the lab and what is now called the Macrianis wing of the Gnavius Library, attracted full funding before Loring did. Meanwhile, the Loring rooms became hotter and hotter, and their plumbing and wiring creakier and creakier. That was the bad news. But the good news is that we had more time to think about it and get it right. And as far as I know, everyone thinks that we did get it right. Air conditioning throughout, private bathrooms in every bedroom, modern kitchen and laundry facilities, 6 apartments for senior scholars, a saloni with modern audio-visual equipment, solar panels on the roof, double-glazed windows, tight insulation, and internet connections throughout. On top of all of that, we managed to make Loring Hall and the associated buildings look as if nothing much had changed. It is still the grand old 1929 neoclassical building. The inevitable downside, of course, is that these buildings, which cost $200,000 to build in 1929, cost more than $6 million to expand and renovate in 2020. And with a full maintenance endowment, the total cost has come in at just over $10 million. It took many people working together to make this happen. First of all, Charles Williams, who insisted from the beginning that all of these buildings be air-conditioned throughout with private bathrooms in every bedroom. And that vision was supported by our earliest major donors, Ed and Jonathan Cohen. Then the staff here in Athens, Jenifer Niles, Telos Panos, and Neve Mikalapoulou, working closely with our architects Kyriakidis, our construction team Sarnatek and Stamenides, our lawyers Nikolaidis, and with our building committee chaired by Alex Zagoreos, which included Jenifer and Telos, managing committee chair Mark Lawal and vice chair Kathleen Lynch, Gnavius overseers Andreas Zobanakis and Bob Pounder, and trustee Betsy Gebhardt and myself. All these people worked together to iron out the details and deal with the inevitable hiccups that you always encounter in a renovation. In our case, when we found that the 1929 floors were not strong enough and had to be entirely replaced. Concurrently, we embarked on a fundraising campaign in the United States. We received donations from 385 alumni and friends. And some of these led to the naming of various rooms in honor of some of the great figures of the American schools past. And here I want to thank George Orphanakos, Nancy Savaidis, Dennis Mark, and Mary Beth Schneller for managing that effort. But as is nearly always the case for large capital projects, we needed some large gifts, some very large gifts. And just as we were teetering on the brink, trying to decide whether we could really afford to do this since we were absolutely unwilling to invade our endowment, one of our trustees, Stathis Andris, stepped forward with a magnificent gift, actually two magnificent gifts, and that gave us the confidence that we could prudently proceed. That was followed by another magnificent gift from Mimsy McCredie, whose daughter Meredith is with us here today. And we were honored to be able to rename West House McCredie House after Jim McCredie, who served successively as director of the school, chair of the managing committee, and president of the trustees. And then we had two other seven-figure gifts from the Cohen family through their Arate Foundation and from our treasurer, Dean DeColias, and another sizable gift from the Horace Goldsmith Foundation, chaired by our trustee, Bill Slaughter. It was these 5 gifts that provided more than 3/4 of the $8.1 million that we have raised so far. But we still need to raise about $2 million more to complete the maintenance endowment so that Loring Hall will no longer be a burden on the school's general endowment. As you walk through these spaces, I encourage you to take a moment to look at the signs on the doors and the photos and the biographies in the rooms, which commemorate some of the great figures of the American school's past. And also, please take a look at the photographs by Bob McCabe of Greece as it was in the 1950s. They're a real treasure in themselves. So far, we have 25 named spaces and 2 more that are currently in process. But there's still room for more. And that would be a wonderful way to complete the funding for these buildings. In the meantime, take a stroll, admire the buildings and the photo bios, and join me in giving thanks to the many donors and staff members who made all of this possible.
Thank you very much, Robin, especially for your great leadership in this long process of getting Loring to the finish line. Now it is my pleasure to introduce one of our students, Shannon Dunn, who is currently the Gorham Phillips Stevens Fellow at the American School and a PhD candidate in the Department of Classical and Near Eastern Archaeology at Bryn Mawr College. She will speak to us about living in Loring Hall, before and after. Shannon.
Thank you, Dr. Niles, and Kalispera, everyone. Since its earliest days, the American School gave women a chance to be members of the school and to conduct fieldwork in Greece. Many have jumped at the chance, including many notable women from my institution, Bryn Mawr, which also produced the school's first female director, Dr. Niles. However, for half a century, these women were not allowed to live on the American School campus, but had to rent hard-to-find rooms down in the city, since at the time this area was much more rural, and to commute up to the libraries. In the 1920s, the presidents of the Seven Sisters Colleges led the charge to raise money for a women's dormitory at the school. After much negotiating with the trustees, Loring Hall was eventually opened to all genders. I first came to the American School in 2011 for the summer session and have returned for summer seminars and the academic year programs. In summers, living together in this beautiful historic campus was amazing, but as you have already heard, there were nights where it was so hot no one could sleep. I was one of those who went over to Blagan Library, staging it to look like I had fallen asleep working. Other nights, the women living in upstairs Loring would lug our mattresses out onto the terrace and sleep under the stars. Later, as a regular member for the 2019 to 20 year, I was in the last group of students to stay in Loring before the renovations, and the building was a refuge of comfort and good cooking that we could return to after long, action-packed trips to archaeological sites around the country. I am also in the first group to stay in the new Loring this past academic year, returning after a year of forced exile due to the pandemic. Like anyone who grows to love a place and becomes very protective of it, many of us were both excited and wary to see the renovations. But upon returning to Loring, we saw that it was the same beautiful place, but with many valuable updates for residents and staff. The bones of Loring have endured, even if some have gotten a little taller, and the atmosphere as an oasis for students and scholars of Greek history and culture has not been altered. The newly named spaces imbue the building with the legacies of previous generations of scholars, making Loring a living monument. Not just the longed-for air conditioning, but the new flexibility for accommodating couples and families, the addition of elevators and lifts, and other overdue updates are part of the changes making our home away from home more accessible and hospitable, while also preserving a haven where future generations of diverse and dynamic scholars can thrive with Loring as their home base in Greece. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. And at this point, we're going to do 2 ceremonial ribbon cuttings, and we'd like to kindly ask Stathis Andris, as the lead benefactor, to please come forward right behind me to be joined by Rob Loomis, Alex Zagoreos, the mayor, and Jenifer Niles, and Niamh Michopoulou, if possible. And tell us if you don't mind. And we'll cut, I'll get out of your way, not that I don't think it makes a difference. But, yeah, and Mark Lowell, sorry, Mark. Wait, let the photographer. Should we open the door? No. And then let go. You want to go through the door? Don't do it until the he's ready. We'll go in the door. We have to go under this. No. Yeah, Boris? Okay, that's fine. Sorry. Do what you can.
You just have to believe you can.
Anywhere? You have to look at the camera. There you go. Yeah.
And now proceed on the elevator across the way. Meredith, you do the honors and to be joined by with your husband, 2 children, and again the whole group. And Bob Pounder, please, if you could go across the way. What are we doing? We're going that way. You won't be careful. Jenifer, don't forget. Go over there. Mark.
Now that we're officially open.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Do it.
Έλα, April, come on side. Το κάτω. Δεν ανοίγει.
Congratulations. As they make their way back, allow me just to let you know how the rest of the event is going to proceed. The building to the right, the annex, is open, and you can go into the second and third floor if you'd like. You'll see the open space, so you can look in some of the rooms and read some of the signage. If you'd like, you can also proceed to the Vanderbilt dining room. We're going to be having some little ribbon cuttings for some of the spaces that are here with us. If you see us cutting some ribbons without public display, you certainly share our joy. Then you'll proceed directly through the Kleiner Saloni, and we're going to be cutting a ribbon for the Alumni Terrace, and then there'll be in the Leventis Garden and on the Georges Family Terrace. Please also keep in mind that the Hippos exhibit that Professor Niles has put together is open until 9 o'clock this evening and finishes, its last exhibit is on Sunday, June 6th, I believe. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and a round of applause for everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. There is also a black book, a large black book, I forgot, in the Saloni that has all of the signage that you can find throughout the building. So feel free to look at that as well. Thank you. I just got to move this thing. Bravo. Okay, we're done. That's it. No fanfare. Well, let me get so they don't kill them. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I say 15 years.
Let's guess. Hello, how are you?
It was so funny. I'm at the microphone and I see you guys. Oh, that we good. Are we live?
Yeah.
Oh, don't get me live. I know. How's everything? It's great.
Hello.
You have to take.
Okay.
Oh, you're gonna. I know.
Yeah. Oh, and then on my terrace. Lee.
He's here. Where's Lee? Lee's here?
April.
May we do this first? Sorry to bother you. Don't get me on the camera. May I take yours? No offense.
Open the door.
Another touch. Beautiful. Yeah, we got it. Yeah, we're going to do all this. Is absolutely, it should be part of back in
So sorry. Jenifer, please. Go to the alumni. Go to the alumni. Okay.
Where's Ian Beck? Sorry, come on, we'll do this. Mark the wall, yes.
Τώρα συνδέθηκα.
Let me get Mark. You got Mark? No, we run into this.
How are you doing? I'm okay. Not so bad.
Oh yeah. I did sleep in. That was nice. Got a full 7.5 hours, which for me is pretty good. I mean, I don't sleep any longer than that normally. But I was out
I am, yeah. We're going to come to you. I'm just going to do the top. The Bob's around. Bob has to do this territory.
No.
I don't know. We should clarify
write
give
it
me
down
your
right now.
email.
I'll take yours.
All
I'll
right,
take your
either
email. You
one.
just tell me and then.
Yeah, that's it.
Because since I have my phone in front of me here.
It's easy. It's very easy. Oh, there's Maria. Yeah. What's the
You go through? Go outside and see it. How does that door open?
Oh, look, that's a good idea. That makes perfect sense. Thank you. You need to come down to exhibitions and we'll find each other in New York and
That I would love it in New York because I worked all the time. I have very good friends, but not so many. Well, I'm very busy doing my stuff.
yes, you're exactly. And then you're off in the summer. Are you
I
off?
am.
Yeah. Well, everybody's here and there in the summer, so we'll find you in the fall. Although I'm going to a couple of trips in the fall.
What are you doing?
I have a couple of trips in the fall. One with my museum to Oslo and
Oh, wonderful.
Copenhagen, and one with the Met in Portugal, which is a repeat, but that's
So
okay.
that's great.
That's okay.
Okay, I think that's it.
Okay.
So there I
And then
am.
say,
My cell,
which I can text.
my home, that's my Gmail.
Yeah. So you're pretty easy. You're like I am, except I stick an S in the middle, so I'm Zoe S. Pappas at
Okay.
Gmail. But I'll send you a message and then you'll have it.
Yeah, that's it. And that's it. 0898, 0898. And I put even my address.
Terrific.
So you know I'm from New York.
All right. That I'll read. Done. Done? Did it hit done? Yeah. Thank you.
So send me yours.
I will. I'll send you Oh, I agree.
And I'm a big walker. If you want to go on.
I think if you push hard, it'll stay open.
That would be fun because I don't know it well.
Beautiful.
Go
in.
When I
Go
go
in.
to the Met, I'm going to the Met. Plus to go. And I always feel like you're there.
Thank you.
Very nice.
No, I'll send it. Oh, but I do. I do. I'd love
That would be great.
And other
Of course, there's the
parts.
reservoir, right?
Oh, yeah, that's fun. That's fun. That's fun.
Yeah. So we do more. Right. No, but my nephew is starting to be barn.
Constantino, come with
They
me.
started at whatever the top of the barn and
I should go around.
Oh, you want to see Thomas's room? Yeah.
I would love
Yeah, come on, Mark, let's go for Bob.
to take you to our favorite restaurant.
wow.
He doesn't
You want
live
Bob?
in the city. I mean, his apartment on 700.
Where is it in New Jersey? I mean, it's
Far Hills.
in Far Hills, yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place.
I'm sure.
But I have home in the city. Not quite as beautiful, but it's
That's fine. That's fine. It's me. Right. And that you want that to be.
yeah. But I'd love it. This one. Okay, so this one.
It's all very nice.
Did you have a nice time?
And I've got it. They don't have a touch. They're stuck.
Could we get your photograph? Could we get you the photograph?
Yes. Mark, let's do Mark, please. Mr. James. Whoever was, yes, please come in. Please come in. Here, you have a signature.
Another signature.
Thank you, we'll give you care. Go ahead.
Mejis.
I'll cut some for you.
Bob, go. We're going. Where is, I think the camera's on my phone.
Your phone.
What's this? Is this
Disney.
Am I live?
Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
There's a couple of, first of all, the books are all over.
Yes. Well, they do eventually. We gotta get it. He's not very.
It's about yeah, 12 so he knows. He's been here many times. I just whatever he says, he's the man. He's the man.
Adelante. Grazie, grazie. Ah, bravo. Brasile si tira τώρα.
Ναι, καλά. Καλά το έρθει την άλλη φορά.
Ναι. No, I know, but like something wrong. That's loud. Do you know him?
Yeah. Anyway, so that's what's going on.
He's waiting.
I think so. It's unfortunate. And in the meantime, Yorgi II has passed away. Yeah, but his son is.
Same photo as last time.
Right.
You know, she took me a photo when we were doing the inauguration of the Yankees.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. I have the drone here. I'm always somewhere. Good to see you too. How are you?
This year, I knew I was just reading somewhere online. It's this year.